would be fine. And we are joined by the President of Georgia, President Saakashvili. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be on your show.
Let me ask you, you have had a long and frankly troubled relationship with Russia. The Obama administration is trying to establish a working relationship with Russia. Do you think it is possible to have a constructive working relationship with Russia on issues like Iran, on other issues of regional security?
Certainly it's worth giving a try, and certainly I congratulate President Obama with signing the START treaty. Of course, it's a good sign that's sent to international system that nuclear weapons will be cut, and any engagement based on principles will be helpful, and I think the Americans get the point.
But a lot of people worry, and I've heard this in your part of the world, Eastern Europe and in parts of Central Asia, that maybe we, the Americans, are not being tough enough on the Russians.
I think I've seen no signs of compromising on the main principles. And the main principle is that the area should be kept democratic, that democratic leaders should be supported. I think Americans have been very straightforward on that, and President Obama personally had been very strong on that. I mean, very outspoken. He has stepped in every moment when this was needed in a right manner. Not only the wording was right, I would even say body language of his meetings in Moscow and in our part of the world where, there's lots of double speak, double think still left over, especially in authoritarian type of systems. These kind of things might matter even more when you talk about body language rather than what you say. And I think the new U.S. president has got it all right.
Let's look at the issue of the conflict with Russia that you had.
Sure.
There are people who feel, and the international report is mixed on this issue, that you provoked the conflict.
We got invaded. Nobody denies we got invaded. Even your report, which tried to kind of be very, not to, harm any of this, not to get too much into who was at fault. Even they say, yes, this country got invaded by troops. Whatever legal, wording might be behind it, the fact is there.
Do you think that Russia is trying to reassert or recolonize its old empire from the Soviet days?
Vladimir Putin's first thing said it was a great tragedy that the Soviet Union went to to history and basically was demolished. He restored Soviet anthem. He certainly is very fond of some of the Soviet symbols, and certainly he thinks that there is his sphere of influence. But the point here is, I think, and that's why Georgia is so problematic.
But do you think they are actively trying to take measures that would reassert control?
You bet it. I mean, we see daily signs of it all around the place. But I think more they try it, in our case at least, less efficient it becomes. Because, once you get into real democratic game, all the authoritarian things are no longer as efficient. And they know it. The time is working against it. That's why they're in a hurry. They want to get us before we really become full-fledged successful democracy. We are on the way of becoming one. And this, when you have this kind of closed society, when you have authoritarian kind of rulers, the biggest thing they hate is open society, transparency, efficiency, non-corrupt systems. And that's what we are trying to fully do irreversibly.
Putin has singled you out personally and said that he wants you either deposed, or I think even once he suggested that if you were killed, it would be fine.
No, he basically wanted to hang me by balls, whatever it implies. But I mean, I take it lightly.
You've met him?
Oh, many times, definitely.
What do you think of him as a person?
Well, I think he's just old type of a guy, and he is ruthless. He is ruthless. He basically comes from that old KGB generation that sees world in zero-sum game thing. Certainly lots of people in the world would love to say, and I would be the first one to say, okay, we'd love Cold War to be over, but certainly it's not over from his point of view. He still thinks that, West cheated overall Russia, and Russia needs to regain this sphere of influence, and then he just should use any method through this end. But, ultimately Russia cannot survive without real modernization, real opening up, real democracy. these are people who travel. They are well aware of what's going on in the world. They are, of course, normal people.
What about President Medvedev? Is he one? Could he be a source of modernization for Russia?
I know there is. I would love it to be true. Really, I mean, I had also a meeting with Medvedev. He obviously is very different in his style, and also he's from different generation. He has said all the bad things about us, but I don't really pay attention to that because I know who is leading there at this moment.
So Medvedev has no power.
Well, hopefully he might become more than Kalinin or Podgorny, who was president under Brezhnev. Russia has Russian history has lots of twists, but I think primarily it's not about kind of intrigues in Kremlin and around Kremlin. I think it's about dire need for Russian society to modernize and to open up. And whoever incarnates that will ultimately take over. Because in today's world, 21st century, with all the challenges, Russia cannot afford to shut down the whole society, to be nasty to everybody, just to bully around, mess around, and still go on.
President Saakashvili, thank you very much. Pleasure to have you.
Thanks so much.